Chapter 4:21 Breaking Array. Within the flaming battlefield were 330 cave mansions, of which most were located in the outer area. This included the discovered cave mansions which belonged to the 6 marquises, and so to the Xianxia cave mansion. There was nothing special about a particular sallow and desolate mountain to the naked eye. However, beneath this mountain was the presence of a cave mansion, and near the mountain was a faint sign of an immaterial halo. The halo shrouded the entire mountain without leaving even an inch of gap. It was the formation outside the Xianxia cave mansion. It was precisely because of this formation that even though many of the experts from Drifting Blood Marquis camp knew that beneath the mountain was a cave mansion which promised many opportunities, they could only admire it from afar. Right at this moment, there was a party of 7 people, including Lady Red, standing abreast in a void not far from the mountain. Bone King, how are you going to break this formation if even Lord-level experts can't do anything about it? Beast grunted. Don't fret, just wait and see. Bone King laughed mysteriously. Jian Wushuang took a glance at Bone King and said, that formation is extremely powerful. It's absolutely impossible for us to break it by force on our own. The only way is to get someone from inside to collaborate with us and destroy the foundation of the formation. In Jian Wushuang's view, this was the only possibility. He had employed such a method in Nanyang continent before. At that time, he was bringing people to Ice Nether Valley to kill and turn the place upside down. Right at the start, he got his men to break the array core of the valley's protective array so that the valley could not deploy it. Things were happening in the Xianxia cave mansion beneath the mountain as Jian Wushuang and company waited in secrecy. The cave mansion was incomparably huge, and it extended in all directions. Within it were numerous secret chambers. A bald elder was seated in one of the chambers, and in front of him was an extremely difficult chess composition which he had not found the solution to despite having pondered for many months. Suddenly, the door of the chamber opened, and in walked a black-haired youth. Brother He. The black-haired youth laughed, carrying a pot of wine in his hand. The bald elder raised his head. When he saw the pot of wine in the youth's hand, his eyes sparkled, and he immediately swept the chess composition to one side. Brother He, I came especially to drink with you. The youth sat down in front of the elder and poured some wine for him. Younger brother Yunchong, I don't understand you. With your strength, you're definitely capable of making your way in the inner area, where you'll have many opportunities to attain battle achievements. You don't have to stay here like me, the elder remarked. Experts are dime a dozen in the inner area. Won't I be courting death by going there? The youth laughed. Not necessarily. Even though it's dangerous in the inner area, you are, for better or worse, a stage 3 expert, which means you should be more than capable of gaining a foothold there. The bald raised his cup and sniffed it after he finished speaking. His eyes began to scorch at once. Good wine indeed. How could I possibly dare to offer it to you if it wasn't good? The youth replied solicitously. Ha ha. The bald elder's smile widened. He began to drink without any more hesitation. However, the moment he raised his head once again, he saw that the facial expression of the youth had turned from a constant warm smile into a hideous look. A wicked killing intent burst forth violently from the latter's eyes. D. An amazingly fast icy ray of light began to illuminate the secret chamber. At such a close distance, the elder was utterly unable to react. What? Shock and anger began to fill his eyes as his body was thrown backward forcefully. However, when he got on his feet, he immediately felt a sharp pain in his heart. He subconsciously lowered his head to check. What he saw frightened him out of his wits. A gaping hole had been punctured in his chest area. Huge amounts of flesh and blood were streaming out of it, while his heart had also ruptured. You. The elder looked in disbelief at the black-haired youth. The latter had, just a while ago, been that courteous and complaisant, but quickly turned hostile. He finished off the elder with a single stroke. The elder could not even ask why. Before his body began to collapse gradually on the floor. The youth stood in the secret chamber and, with a cold and pitiless look, observed the body of the collapsed elder. He subsequently took away the elder's interspatial ring, and after making it recognize him as its owner, he pulled a token out of it. Relying on the token, he found his way to another secret chamber in the cave mansion. It was the location of the array core of the formation near to the cave mansion, while the chamber also had its own formation. What he had just taken from the bald elder was the only token which granted entrance to this secret chamber. After entering this chamber, the youth immediately began to destroy the array core of the formation without any hesitation. In the void outside the cave mansion, Jian Wushuang, Bone King, and their companions waited quietly. All of a sudden, they saw that the immaterial halo which had for long been shrouding the mountain began to quiver frantically. It has begun. Bone King's eyes lit up. Xianxia, Beast, and others revealed looks of pleasant surprise when they saw the violent movement of the formation. The immaterial halo quickly reached the verge of disintegration. Let's go. It's time for us to get to work. We shall break the formation completely, Bone King said. With the exception of Lady Red, the other 6 experts moved forward at once and projected waves of attacks of every kind toward the formation. The formation, which was already on the brink of disintegration, was sundered by the attacks of the 6 people. Once the formation was broken, Xianxia Cave Mansion became rather like a naked young woman standing daintily in front of them. Right at this moment, a figure dashed out of the cave mansion and appeared in front of them. This person was none other than the black-haired youth who had just murdered the bald elder and completely destroyed the array core of the formation. Aren't you He Yunchong? Xianxia instantly recognized who he was. Bone King, Xianxia, Beast. The youth greeted them one by one. Ha ha. When I accepted this mission, I already knew that an insider would collaborate with us to break the formation. However, I didn't know who it would be and certainly didn't think it would be you. Bone King laughed in delight. I was originally from Drifting Blood Marquis camp, and was sent as a mole to Pale Moon Marquis very early on. I only exposed myself today for the sake of capturing Xianxia Cave Mansion. He Yunchong laughed as well. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang and the others finally understood it all. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Since the formation has been broken, we should get started. A gush of killing intent surged from Bone King's body. Chapter 422. 2 days. As one of the most highly valued cave mansions in Pale Moon Marquis camp, the place was not only protected by a powerful formation externally but also by several experts internally at all times. However, these experts were mostly mediocre, and only 2 of them were any outstanding. One of them was He Yunchong, while the other was the bald elder He. They were both stage 3 experts. He Yunchong, of course, turned out to be a mole deployed by Drifting Blood Marquis, while Elder He had just been murdered by the former. Consequently, there remained only a bunch of stage 2 experts. They, too, had detected the changes which had taken place to the formation. What's going on? The formation is actually breaking? It's He Yunchong. He killed Elder He and has now destroyed the array core of the formation. Damn it. I can't believe He Yunchong is a spy. Quick, send word to the campsite. A commotion kicked off throughout Xianxia Cave Mansion. These stage 2 experts, who served under Pale Moon Marquis, would turn pale in shock when the formation was completely broken and Jian Wushuang and company appeared in front of them. I've killed the only stage 3 expert in here. The rest are just stage 2s. They carry no threat to us, He Yunchong said. Move. Bone King issued a terse order before transforming himself into a beam of flowing light which shot forth with a terrifying vigor. Jian Wushuang and company followed up without hesitation. Block them. Pale Moon Marquis experts were able to put up a resistance at first. However, they lost their courage after Bone King charged at them and, with a casual slap, turned several of them into smithereens. Run. Fast. Oh gosh. We can't fend them off at all without the formation. Pale Moon Marquis stage 2 experts began to flee disorderly. Various figures were seen scampering in all directions. Kill. Bone King's killing intent was soaring. Ha ha. These all count as battle achievements. Beast laughed maniacally. Only Jian Wushuang and Xianxia did not act. Xianxia's temperament was laid back, and he had no interest in killing people who were merely stage 2 experts of the Saint Realm. As for Jian Wushuang, even though he was innately battle-hungry, he never enjoyed slaying the weak. The entire Xianxia Cave Mansion quietened down after only a short while. Save for a very small handful who fortunately escaped, most of Pale Moon Marquis experts, who had been guarding the cave mansion, were ruthlessly massacred. Under He Yuncheng's lead, Jian Wushuang and company arrived in the secret chamber where the array core had been. Lady Red, how long will it take you to fix up a formation? Bone King inquired. Lady Red looked around the place with a heavy face before replying. The floor area of this cave mansion is extremely large. It'll be rather tedious for me to fix up a formation. It should take at least 2 days to complete. 2 days? Bone King frowned slightly. The news of us capturing Xianxia Cave Mansion will spread very quickly to Pale Moon Marquis Camp. That should take a day at most by their usual speed. A fresh group of experts will then come to kill us. Pale Moon Marquis Camp valued Xianxia Cave Mansion greatly. Many of the experts who were guarding it possessed a messaging slip which could send word to the Marquis in a short time. In fact, the camp already received news when Jian Wushuang and company had just started to capture the cave mansion. And knowing Pale Moon Marquis' speed, he was very well able to organize a group of experts to come killing within a day. But most of the experts of Pale Moon Marquis camp are out and about in the flaming battlefield, and not many are left in the camp. Even if the camp can deploy experts within a day, there shouldn't be too many of them. At most, it will be a small team that comes. We just have to think of a way to fend off such a small team, Bone King noted. Understood. Jian Wushuang and company nodded their heads, albeit their expressions remained somewhat solemn. They all understood that in this mission, capturing Xianxia Cave Mansion was not the hard part. The real difficulty was in fending off the counteroffensive from Pale Moon Marquis's camp. Only that was the most difficult and dangerous part. Lady Red, you shall go and fix up the formation first. As for the rest, go and have a look around the cave mansion while the Marquis experts are not yet here. Who knows what you might find? After all, people from the Marquis camp need to amass 8,000 battle achievements before they are granted a single trip here. Bone King spoke once more. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang laughed involuntarily. Every cave mansion in the flaming battlefield possessed its own unique opportunities. Furthermore, the cave mansions controlled by the 2 large camps required unique battle achievements as payment for a single visit. For instance, even the most average cave mansions under Drifting Blood Marquis required the expenditure of between 2,000 to 3,000 battle achievements for a single visit. And for a cave mansion on Xianxia's level under Pale Moon Marquis, 8,000 battle achievements were required for a single visit. This meant that the cave mansion was considered to be among the highest level, and was only secondary to the Marquis' personal cave mansions. Besides, the owner of Xianxia Cave Mansion, known as Xianxia Lord, was a sword principal expert. Jian Wushuang was desirous of some of the opportunities which the former had left behind on several sword principals in the cave mansion. Jian Wushuang, Shui Yang, Beast, He Yuncheng, and company began to look around the cave mansion without hesitation. He Yuncheng, you have been guarding Xianxia Cave Mansion for a long time. Haven't you looked around the place before? Beast questioned. Although I was guarding the place, I stayed only in the outer layer. The inner layer, where the opportunities are, was off limits. He Yuncheng revealed a forced smile before he continued. I know exactly which opportunities there are in this cave mansion, however. Oh. Jian Wushuang shot a glance at He Yuncheng. Follow me. The latter walked up front and led the way. As Jian Wushuang and company were capturing Xianxia Cave Mansion, things were happening far away in Pale Moon Marquis camp, which was situated at the edge of flaming battlefield. In the middle of a huge tent were 3 thrones, upon which 3 people were seated. These 3 people each had an abnormally terrifying aura. They were way above the level of the Saint Realm, and were apparently 3 Lord-level super beings. However, their expressions were rather hideous at present. Several experts were standing deferentially in front of them. We have just received news that Xianxia Cave Mansion has been captured by experts from the enemy camp. The leader among the 3 lords was a burly middle-aged man with purple hair. His thunderous voice began to sound within the tent, causing the hearts of the stage 3 experts standing in front of him to shudder involuntarily. Chapter 4:23. Touched. How is that possible? Xianxia Cave Mansion has actually been captured? There's a brutally powerful formation set up by my camp outside Xianxia Cave Mansion. It should have been very difficult to break through, even if several lords worked together. The experts who were standing respectfully were shocked when they learned about the formation. The burly middle-aged man with purple hair continued, He Yunchong, who was one of the 2 Stage 3 experts guarding Josha Cave Mansion, is a spy sent by Drifting Blood Marquis. It was he who conspired with the enemy experts and helped them to capture the cave mansion. I hereby decree that He Yunchong shall be classified as a top priority assassination target, and that any expert in the camp who is related to him will be thoroughly interrogated. Anyone found to be closely related to him shall be immediately executed. The burly middle-aged man with purple hair resumed speaking after the series of orders were handed down. My camp controls 101 cave mansions, among which Josha Cave Mansion is only secondary in value to the 3 Marquis Cave Mansions. Such an important cave mansion should never be allowed to fall into the hands of Drifting Blood Marquis. Send orders to assemble a group of experts immediately, and for the group to head to Josha Cave Mansion in the shortest time possible. Seize back Josha Cave Mansion while the enemy has yet to gain a firm foothold and fix up a formation. Yes. The Stage 3 experts acknowledged solemnly. By the way, hasn't Deng Hua just set out toward the inner area a while ago? He should be reaching the outer area by now. Send word to him immediately to take a trip to Josha Cave Mansion. The recapture won't be difficult with his assistance. The other 2 lords nodded their heads. They apparently had full confidence in Deng Hua, who the purple-haired man mentioned. After this order was handed down, it took only half a day for a group of experts to be assembled and to set off. Because of the tightness of time, the experts simply teleported using their space travel spells and quickly reached the outer area. Jian Wushuang and company were still looking around inside Josha Cave Mansion. There are 3 spots of opportunities in Josha Cave Mansion. He Yunchong was naturally very familiar with Josha Cave Mansion, having stayed here for so long. These spots can be classified into 2 different types. One is meant for Origin Enlightenment, while the other is for Sword Principle. Sword Principle? Bone King, Shui Yang, and several others could not refrain from looking at Jian Wushuang. Including He Yunchong, there were 7 experts present. However, among them, only Jian Wushuang specialized in Sword Principle. Jian Wushuang subconsciously touched his own nose as a result of the attention he was getting. Swordsman, some luck you have. Bone King laughed. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Regarding the 2 spots of opportunities for Origin Enlightenment, exactly which origins are they meant for? Beast asked. The Raging Fire Origin and the Thunderbolt Origin, He Yunchong answered. Immediately, odd looks appeared on several faces. Those who had practiced either of these 2 origins were naturally delighted, whereas those who had never practiced either origin could only laugh bitterly. The opportunity for Sword Principle is right in that secret chamber. You can go in, Swordmaster, He Yunchong said. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang nodded his head and walked toward the secret chamber. Guys, don't you want to go in and have a look too? He Yunchong looked at Bone, Shui Yang, and company. Never mind. We aren't proficient in Sword Principle at all. The opportunity for it is useless to us, Beast replied. If it's an origin opportunity, we can try meditating for a while whether or not we're proficient in it. After all, knowing an extra origin may bring some benefit. However, I'm sure that no one here still specializes in Sword Principle, right? Bone King commented. The others nodded their heads in agreement. Subsequently, they walked toward the spots of opportunities for Origin Enlightenment. Jian Wushuang stood alone in the middle of the secret chamber, which was so empty and unfurnished that there was not even a stool. The only thing in the room was a giant painting which was hung on the stone wall directly in front of the swordsman. The painting was 3 meters high and 2 meters wide. It almost covered the stone wall completely. The painting displayed the scene of a man practicing his sword under a tree. His posture was that of thrusting his sword out. This sword. Jian Wushuang began to concentrate his attention on the painting. Under his gaze, the man in the painting suddenly began to move. Jian Wushuang saw the man thrust his sword forward viciously. The thrust caused, in the man's surroundings, a whirlwind which carried a relentless essence. It was as if the sword would stop at nothing to kill the enemy. Jian Wushuang was completely smitten by the ingenious and mysterious sword. He stared fixedly at the sword and felt its relentless essence. After a good while, the sword stopped moving and the painting came to a still. Jian Wushuang, however, had already entered the midst of enlightenment. That never say die sword. Jian Wushuang was recalling in his mind the sword he had just seen. The sword was astonishing, and it somewhat touched Jian Wushuang in the bottom of his heart. This touch was from a different sword skill school. It was the heart-killing sword technique, the most powerful sword skill invented by the sword ancestors. Jian Wushuang had memorized every one of its 9 sword movements when he was still in Ancestors' Land, and he mastered its first move early on when he was in Nanyang continent. However, Traceless, as the first move was named, was nothing more than the starting point of heart-killing sword technique. Among the 9 sword movements, it was the least powerful and also the easiest to understand. As far as its power was concerned, Traceless was only about as good as first-grade sword techniques. Because of its mediocre power, people often doubted whether the move was truly invented by the sword ancestors. In reality, however, Jian Wushuang understood that the first move was put in place because the sword ancestors were worried that the sword skill, as a whole, would be too profound and difficult to understand. It was specially crafted to attract more people to practice the subsequent moves. There was no doubt that Traceless was mediocre in power. However, beginning from the second move, the frightening might of the sword technique would start to reveal itself. The second move was definitely near 10 times more powerful than the first. The name of the second move was Desperation. Desperation referred to a tireless essence which was similar to, albeit different in approach from, the essence seen in the painting. This was why Jian Wushuang felt a twitch in his brain when he saw the Never Say Die sword. Never Say Die. Tireless? How could it be like this? After Jian Wushuang closed his eyes, the Lonely Heart sword appeared in his hand. In pace with the movement of his wrist, thrust after thrust of the sword would be exerted. Chapter 424. Desperation. Every thrust of the sword was exerted explosively at the void ahead. The technique was not much different from that of the man depicted in the painting. However, the power and speed of the sword technique rose insanely with every thrust. Furthermore, there gradually emerged the consolidation of a resolve and a tireless essence. When the essence had consolidated to its peak, Jian Wushuang's eyes opened violently, only for a beam of intense light, which was akin to an electric arc, to shoot across the void. Subsequently, the long sword in his hand transformed into a beam of lightning and shot forth as well. Carrying a resolve and a tireless essence, the sword swept across and struck on the void directly ahead. Though the sword clearly did not hit any material object, and instead only struck the air in the secret chamber, it nevertheless caused the spread of an immaterial ripple. Boom! The air emitted a loud roar as if it was about to shatter completely. Desperation! Jian Wushuang sheathed his long sword. In his eyes flickered an intense radiance. What a terrifying move! It has not only a resolve but also a tireless essence. Although it expends an abnormally large amount of spiritual power, its power is truly incredible. Compared to the first move, Traceless, it's stronger by nearly 10 times. It has certainly proven itself to be the strongest sword skill personally invented by the sword ancestors. He felt that Traceless, the first move of heart-killing sword technique, was not powerful enough, and therefore he rarely used it to fight. The second move was completely different. However, my offensive power has increased by nearly 10 times simply by understanding the second move. Jian Wushuang felt pleased inwardly. It should be noted that his strength had spurted when he consolidated the origin mark, which thereby enabled him to compete with Stage 3 peak experts. Now, having understood the second move of heart-killing sword technique, his maximum offensive power had shot up by nearly 10 times. This meant that, in terms of offensive power, he had surpassed the vast majority of Stage 3 peak experts. At least, among the Stage 3 peak experts who had come along, Shuiyang and Beast could surely not compare to him in terms of offensive power. Neither was it clear whether Bone King, who was the strongest among them and was unrivaled at the heaven-defying level and below, could. And this was only regarding offensive power. It should be known that Jian Wushuang also possessed realms. If he used their suppressive abilities, he would remain capable of exerting his full power, whereas Bone King and the others would find their strengths affected and their offensive power greatly diminished. My speed and defensive skills are outstanding, and my self-preservation methods are extremely strong. Among the countless experts of the Saint Realm in Flaming Battlefield, only a handful are my match. My only weakness was that my offensive skills weren't the most powerful. But now, having understood the second move of heart-killing sword technique, this weakness has been offset completely. My overall strength has reached an entirely new level. A bright glint surged in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Previously, by relying on his realms, he gained the confidence to fight against experts on the same level as Beast and Shui Yang. However, the realms could only ensure that he would not be defeated. They did not help him to win outright against such experts. He would have been utterly trounced by enemies on Bone King's level. Now, however, he no longer needed to be afraid of facing Bone King. If they really fought, he could even confidently use his realms to stifle the latter somewhat. I have to thank this painting. After a brief moment of pleasant surprise, he looked at the painting once more. This time, he noticed that at one corner of the painting was a line of tiny words. It turns out that this technique is the most powerful skill invented by Jiaxia Lord. Jian Wushuang gasped silently. Jiaxia Lord was a peak expert in the Cloud Realm and was only inferior to the Marquis. Experts of his level were qualified to invent their own sword skills. The technique in the painting was the most powerful one invented by Jiaxia. Among first-grade sword techniques, it should be one of the most powerful as well. However, because it was a single move, it could not be considered a truly complete sword skill. In any case, I still have to thank Jiaxia Lord. After laughing briefly, he bent his body and bowed toward the painting. Only then did he quietly turn his body and walk out of the secret chamber. He made his way to the main palace of the cave mansion, only to see Bone King there alone. He guessed that Shui Yang, Beast, and the rest were still at the two spots of opportunities for origins. So fast? Bone King was surprised to see Jian Wushuang coming over. He subsequently laughed while asking, "How was it? Did you gain anything?" "Indeed." Jian Wushuang nodded his head, laughing. "Based on the look on your face, the gain must have been quite substantial," Bone King remarked with interest. Jian Wushuang did not reply but nodded internally. The gain was indeed huge, to the extent that he felt pleasantly surprised. He would not feel bad even if the ultimate task of this mission could not be completed and the 10,000 battle achievements could not be attained, for his gain was already very substantial. Bone King began to chat idly with Jian Wushuang in the main palace, but suddenly, boom! Several strong auras traveled forcefully toward them. An icy voice accompanied the auras and sounded thunderously in every corner of the cave mansion. "What audacity you'll have to capture Jiaxia Cave Mansion. None of you shall leave here alive." The faces of Jian Wushuang and Bone King turned grave like never before. "They have arrived." There was a slight heaviness in Bone King's voice. "It has only been half a day." "Pale Moon Marquis camp is quick indeed," Jian Wushuang muttered. Swish! 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 Almost immediately, Shui Yang, Beast and company appeared within the main palace. "Lady Red, you shall continue to fix up the formation. Everyone else, follow me out." As soon as Bone King spoke, the party except for Lady Red hurriedly headed toward the exit of the cave mansion, and swiftly reached the upper void outside. As soon as he had stepped out of the cave mansion, Jian Wushuang saw that there were many figures standing erect in the middle of the void ahead. They consisted of men and women, young and old. There were altogether 9 of them, and their auras were all exceptionally strong. Every one of them was a Stage 3 peak expert. The leader among them was a blood-haired demonic youth whose demonic eyes could cause one's heart to lurch. Duo-Shin Marquis? Upon seeing the demonic youth, even Bone King could not help his pupils from constricting. Like Bone King, Duo-Shin Marquis was one of the experts in Flaming Battlefield who were the closest to the heaven-defying level. His way of doing things was eccentric, and he had given himself the title of Marquis. While he was similar in strength to Bone King, his fear factor was significantly greater than the latter's. Aside from him, the other 8 arrivers were each extremely famous in the inner area and exceptionally powerful. Including Duo-Shin Marquis, the 9 of them's combined strength was way above that of Jian Wushuang's 7-man party. Chapter 425, A Fierce Battle. "So it's actually you, Bone King." The blood-haired demonic youth, Duotian Marquis, glanced at Bone King and company. You certainly have some guts to lead your men to capture a place as highly valued within Pale Moon Marquis camp as Xianxia Cave Mansion. Duotian Marquis, I'm sure you haven't come to talk nonsense, right? Bone King responded in an indifferent voice. Aren't you pleased to say a few last words before your death? The former mocked. You think you can kill me? The latter was even more disdainful. You shall know right away whether I can. The Marquis did not waste any more breath. Kill him. Swish. 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 Beams of flowing light sped through the air murderously. Leave Duotian Marquis to me, and be careful while taking care of the others. He Yunchong, being the weakest, you just have to ensnare one of them. After speaking, Bone King turned toward Jian Wushuang. Swordsman, it's time to see what you're made of. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded his head, and immediately summoned road to the underworld and tenfold realm. The two realms formed into a blood river which surged toward the enemies. The onrushing Duotian Marquis and company were momentarily stunned. These strange realms are causing me great suppression just by being in their midst. This person is probably the swordsman who came to prominence in the inner area recently, right? I've long heard that his realms are something else, and it does appear that they live up to their repute. Duotian Marquis's face turned grim. However, it's only his realm techniques which are troubling. His strength is terribly average. Spectre, find an opportunity to act and kill him. Yes. Following behind Duotian Marquis was a petite woman, veiled in a black robe, who acknowledged softly. They were both clear that Jian Wushuang's realms were a concern which was best taken care of as soon as possible. Kill. A killing intent surged in Bone King's eyes. He was the first to advance murderously at the enemies, while beside him, Shui Yang, Beast, and company quickly followed. Swish. 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 Fast as thunderbolts, these figures quickly traversed the blood river and appeared in front of Pale Moon Marquis experts. Their speeds are considerably faster than ours under the suppression caused by the realms. Duotian Marquis' gaze was somber. He would be the first person Bone King came for. Duotian Marquis, it's been a long time since we fought. Time to play. Bone King sneered. Who's the scared one? Duotian Marquis snorted. A fan-shaped arc light swept forth and a blood-red wicked machete, which held a monstrous power, appeared in his hands. Although it was not first grade, it was certainly among the very best of the second grade. Bone King was indignant and brutal in response. He promptly slapped a palm, which was akin to a majestic mountain, forth. While Bone King and Duotian Marquis were exchanging blows, the other experts on both sides quickly did the same. At first, Pale Moon Marquis' party was considerably stronger than Jian Wushuang's squad, and because it had two more Stage 3 peak experts than the latter, it should reasonably have had an absolute advantage. However, this advantage had been reduced to an extremely small amount thanks to the suppression from Jian Wushuang's realms. Take Shui Yang for example. His strength was already immense, but because of the realms, he could now easily fight alone against two Stage 3 peak experts. This went for Beast as well. Among the others, only He Yunchong was somewhat weaker. But because of the realm's effect, he managed to ensnare a rival Stage 3 peak expert who was unable to break from his grasp. As for Jian Wushuang, everyone had believed that although his realm technique was powerful, his actual strength was average at best, and that he would at most be able to deal with one Stage 3 peak expert. Instead, whoosh, 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 Jian Wushuang struck out beam after beam of sword light. Although he seemed to be doing so casually, in reality, every strike contained great power. Behind him, two giant sword soul phantoms rose up. With their assistance, every one of his strikes reached the threshold of the peak of Stage 3. His opponent was a green-clothed elder who was also at the peak of Stage 3 in terms of battle strength. However, under Jian Wushuang's unceasing stream of sword light, the elder became helpless like never before. The latter laboriously swung the long staff in his hand and exchanged blows with the former time and again, but came off worse in every exchange. Beastard, who was it that said this swordsman's strength is average even though his realms are strong? The elder whined in his heart. Every one of his strikes reaches the threshold of the peak of Stage 3. Even without these realms, I might not be able to defeat him. And with them, I'm completely not his match. From different sections of the battlefield, Bone King, Shui Yang, Beast, and the rest noticed what was going on, and could not help revealing their joy. Swordsman, good job, Bone King remarked. Ha ha, seems like I underestimated you, Swordsman. Beast laughed brazenly. Previously, when they met at Bone King's cave mansion, he was somewhat derisive of Jian Wushuang, and felt that the latter was only good in realm technique. He completely belittled the latter's actual strength. But now, seeing the latter's fight against an expert from Pale Moon Marquis, he finally understood that Jian Wushuang's importance to this mission was far above his. It was only because of the swordsman's realms that they were able to contend with experts from Pale Moon Marquis camp despite having a severely weaker lineup. Furthermore, Jian Wushuang himself had displayed amazing strength and utterly outclassed a Stage 3 peak expert. Conversely, the expressions of the experts from Pale Moon Marquis camp were rather awful. This swordsman's strength is obviously much stronger than the rumors suggested. It has reached the peak of Stage 3. His realms are a huge problem. Spectre. Duoshin Marquis called out softly. A silent, ghost-like figure drifted forth. It was the petite woman who was veiled beneath a black robe. She had been waiting for an opportunity throughout and had yet to act. However, she finally got moving upon hearing Duoshin Marquis' words. Jian Wushuang was still fighting against the green-clothed elder. His casual strikes were packed with the battle strength of the peak of Stage 3, and together with the effect of the realms, were causing great misery to the elder. But right at this moment, he felt a shudder in his heart. It was a sense of danger. Killer. He was all too familiar with this feeling. He had been the target of numerous assassination attempts by Bloodfeather Tower in Nanyang continent, and each time a Bloodfeather Tower killer sneaked up on him, he would have a feeling like the one he was currently having. HMPH. With a grunt, Jian Wushuang abruptly transformed his body. He exerted the first phase of the triple shift. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang's body split open, and at once, a beam of black light shot out from it, which did not spill a single drop of blood. Residual shadow? The petite black-robed woman was astounded on the spot.